It all started as a dream, with Floyd Hall's goal of bringing affordable family entertainment to northern New Jersey. This is a story of Mr. Hall's dream coming to reality. He planned to bring professional baseball to the campus of Montclair State University, naming the stadium after a local legend and New York Yankee hero, Yogi Berra. In 1998, the first pitch was thrown. In its inaugural season, the Jackals brought home the league championship, ushering in the era of the New Jersey Jackals. After 19 seasons and 4 championships, Mr. Hall decided to divest himself from the organization. New ownership led by Al Dorso will now move the franchise into the future. We will hear from former and current owners, management, coaches, players, and fans who will give their unique perspective on the evolution of the franchise. This is the past, present, and future of New Jersey Jackals Baseball.
I think it started with a meeting with Irv Reed, who was the president of Montclair State at that time. And he wanted to have a better baseball facility than the team was using, the university's team was using. Well, it was actually a college, I guess, at that time. I don't know, maybe it was university. He put together this fundraiser, and I had it at his house, and I showed up, and I was the only one that did. It was funny. Maybe not so much to him, but anyway, longer story short, he was talking about go over and take a look at the facility that the team is now using, and it was terrible. It was ancient, and of course this was way before the university did all those new complexes and everything else. But the baseball team had a few little bleachers, and it was really more like more like a high school that you would see than it certainly for a community the size of Montclair and the surrounding communities. So I looked at it and I decided, well, the idea is good, and maybe there's a better way to do it. And what I was thinking about was maybe I should do a professional baseball team. And I knew there was a league that was operating and that needed another team. At that time, there were 7 teams in that league, and they had a road team. So that got me thinking that maybe this was a good thing to do for the community, and more importantly, probably for the kids in the community, because I wanted it to be an entertaining place as well as a baseball stadium. And that was my primary objective in sorting it out and building it. During the early initial stages of it, I really wasn't even here. I was commuting from Monday morning and coming back Friday nights. And so my son really was kind of took charge of the whole project, and as I did on the weekends and various meetings during the week as well.
Never in my life would I ever imagine that we were going to own a minor league baseball team. Really the opportunity fell into his lap. And that was that the university wanted to build a baseball stadium, an ice arena, and other athletic facilities on the campus of MSU. And they were looking for somebody that was interested in doing it. And my dad had this fantastic and fortunate life, and he wanted to do something and give back to the community. And then for me personally, it turned out to be almost perfect timing, because the company that my father and I had founded was in the midst of being sold when he made the deal with Montclair State University. So I was looking for something to do, and to be a part of a baseball team, I jumped at it. It was exciting.
Mr. Hall, he was the backing, the donor, and the concept was created to build new facilities for Montclair State University and the community. And he was willing to be supportive, finance the program. So the wonderful part for me is that I was part of it from the very beginning. every part, creating the concept, part of design, creating the team, etc.
It was very difficult, but worthwhile. The thing that made it difficult is that doing a public-private venture, where a businessman is sitting down and dealing with the state of New Jersey, there's lots of I's and T's that need to be dotted and crossed, but it was worth it. It was difficult, but it was worth it. I wouldn't trade any moment in the last 20 years for anything.
I was part of creating the concept with Mr. Hall, so actually before the whole construction project started, and we worked with the university and put the concept together.
In the area, I think people were looking for that affordable family fun, and while that's a cliche that gets way overused in minor league baseball, that's what we wanted to bring to the community. We wanted to bring something that was affordable, convenient, close, what you would spend for one ticket and parking at Yankee Stadium or the old Met Shea Stadium. That would bring in people that would be able to buy a ticket and feed them for the entire night, and it was just something that I think was going to be and was well received by the community. Just something else for families to do together.
Well, the property, the university, unfortunately, location of the baseball team was the first piece of property at the university, so I had to move to get a bigger piece of property where I could put in the concession stands on both sides and have bigger dugouts and the whole thing, and have the facilities for showering and all of that would go with it. So I moved to another location, and I had to build an outfield, and I had to put 30 feet of dirt. The entire outfield I had to build up. Took about 4 months to just haul the dirt in to build that outfield up to where it met the standards of professional baseball.
Well, we were starting from scratch, so we were building a stadium, creating a team, creating a name, a concept, and something that would make sense for the community in the future. So while there are challenges, we're in the fun business, we're in the sports and entertainment business, so it's always more difficult to start with a clean slate or a clean sheet of paper. So some of that was challenging, but still absolutely fun, and we knew we were going to put something together that was great for the university and communities long term.
We put it out to the public to have them name the team, but I'll be honest with you, there was a favorite, and that was the Jackals. We liked the name of the sound, the New Jersey Jackals. We wanted to be called New Jersey. We didn't want to be something just local, and I loved the feel of the jackal. I liked a little bit of orneriness, a little fight, but that's why we also came up with Jack the Jackal, because we also wanted to have something that was a little bit nice and soft and furry. But yeah, the Jack the Jackal and the New Jersey Jackals, I thought, was just a fantastic fit for who and what we wanted to be.
I just liked New Jersey, and then I was thinking about what do you use off of Jersey, and I went Jackal, and I knew that no one was using the Jackal as a name for a team, maybe for good reason, I'm not sure. But anyway, I loved the rhythm of it, New Jersey Jackals, and that was how we chose it.
Once some of the beginning stages were complete, Mr. Hall met with a local resident of Montclair, New Jersey, and a New York Yankees legend, Yogi Berra, to be involved in the creation of the facility.
Well, I met Yogi when we moved here, and the initial meeting with Yogi Berra was to put together a fundraiser and improve their existing stadium, which was no one was interested in improving it. It was too small, the field. It was just in terrible condition, and so on down the line. So I met Yogi, and I thought about it being, I said, this is a great idea. I mean, and he said, well, I'm interested in building a museum. So I have people who are interested in me having a museum. And I said, well, I will build the basement for you, the floor. We will put your facility over the top of my dugout and over the top of the concession stands. We ended up doing only over the concession stands, but we built Yogi Berra Museum over the top of it. I put the floor in for him, and all the electrical and all the plumbing, and he built the walls and the roof and the interior. So it was my contribution to him to have a museum here, and I thought it was a great idea to have a museum with Yogi Berra's name on it.
But I also knew that it was something that we were going to make good. We were going to do it right. We had Yogi's name with us. I think, we were excited about it, and I want to feel like we felt that we could just deliver what the community kind of wanted.
It's a long story, but it was kind of a convoluted thing. It wasn't something I had in the back of my mind. It was just kind of all happened and seemed to come together and seemed to make a lot of sense to me. But primarily, it was for the kids.
As the season approached, it was time to search for the first ever field manager in Jackals history. They decided to hire longtime minor leaguer Cash Beecham to lead the team.
A gentleman named Dan Mouchon, who was running the Northeast League at the time with Miles Wolf. They are the commissioner, and his assistant let me know that New Jersey was going to be a brand new franchise with a brand new stadium, Yogi Berra Stadium. And I had just finished 3 years with the Montreal Expos as a hitting coach. I'd injured my arm. I couldn't throw batting practice anymore, so I felt like I needed to probably find something else to do because my BP was so bad. And I knew I wanted to manage, and I just had great experiences in independent ball as a player. And I just felt like when that opportunity came available, I wanted to explore it, and I did. And had an interview with Greg Lockhart and Larry Hall, and I guess it went well because they hired me.
The early years, we had Cash Beecham, who was with the team from 1998 through 2000, and he won a championship in '98. And he was a bit of a firebrand. He brought his personality to the game, and he was a showman. And we loved that he was adamant about his position on the field, and we loved watching him perform and coach this team.
For 13 years, I had a lot of injuries that kept me out of the big leagues, and I hung around my last 3 or 4 years solely to do what Crash Davis did, and that's to help, kind of teach young guys how to play the game. Hey, oh boy, that's a good play right there. You too.
Well, in 1998, the first year of the franchise, first of all, the first thing I remember is the stadium. They were just finishing the stadium on opening day. We didn't even know if they would finish the stadium or not. They were putting the final touches on this beautiful brand new stadium with the Yogi Berra Museum there. So tremendous amount of excitement that first year. I was blessed and fortunate to have put together a very, very good team. I always say that team was way better than I was as a manager, because being my first year, I made some rookie mistakes as a manager, but the team was so doggone good that year. They covered up for my mistakes, and we ended up winning the championship that year. And it's something I'll never forget. We're just a great bunch of guys, great ownership, and it was a wonderful experience.
June of 1998 quickly rolled around, and it was time to play ball. It was just the beginning of a very memorable inaugural season for manager Cash Beecham and the Jackals organization.
The first year, 1998, we won our first game on a walk-off home run by Gary Collum in I think it was the 11th inning.
A natural way to christen a Yogi Berra stadium. It ain't over till it's over.
That season ended with a championship. Our last game here at Yogi Berra Stadium was against the Albany Colony Diamond Dogs, and they were down 6-1 going into the bottom of the ninth, and they scored 6 runs to come back and win that game. It was amazing. It was everything that Yogi describes as it's never over till it's over, and the elation in winning that first game of a 3-game playoff was the cornerstone to them going up to Albany and finishing off the Diamond Dogs the next day and winning a championship. So 1998 definitively was a great season. They were a good team, and it was a lot of fun to see that in its first year of existence.
I remember we won the next to last, we beat Albany, and the next to last game that we won the championship in, we scored 5 runs in the bottom of the 9th to beat them at home. That was a memorable win, and that was a memorable championship.
Well, I just remember that we had extremely good team chemistry, and I think the one thing that every championship team I've either played on or managed had was it was a very family-type team, family-oriented, from the ownership into the clubhouse people, the trainers, everybody, the assistant GMs, the GMs, just from top to bottom. It just came together, and we glued as a team and went out there and just basically dominated the league that year in both hitting and pitching, and kind of cruised to a championship that year. So it's by far the best team that I ever managed or I ever put together. So it was obviously being the first year, it was very, very memorable.
The Jersey Jackals is probably the best thing that's happened to Montclair.
It's a beautiful day for a ball game, today. The fans are out to get a ticket or two from Walla Walla, Washington to Kalamazoo.
It's nice having a local guy like this doing well and naming the stadium after him so we could all come and have fun.
Yep, we're Jackal fans.
It's a great family atmosphere. We just love coming. It's a lot of fun.
It's fun, and I come to catch a ball.
They've been winning a lot of games, and it's really fun.
I think the promotions are the best.
The Jackal comes and gives autographs during the 6th inning. There's a contest is for kids.
Would you like the cup or the trading card?
Your winner, say, let's hear it for him. Wind blowing from across the sea.
Players are nice, they're very friendly, they've been very friendly to him, giving him autographs and whatnot.
Thank you.
You get 3 hours of quality time with your kids. They get away from the TV set, it's good, value setting.
I like it a lot coming to the New Jersey Jackals games. I really enjoy it.
Kids enjoy it. They really enjoy it here, and they get home at a reasonable hour, and it's cheaper actually, you know. We're trying to build a community attendance, and we are. I think we're breaking the record. I think they're going to go over 100,000 tonight.
Let's go. Batter up. We're taking the afternoon off.
Very successful first year for the Jackals. First year in the Northeast League, brand new stadium that everything will go so perfectly. Attendance is great. We clinched a playoff spot halfway through the season. We had Pete Rose Jr. playing for the team.
Pete Rose, good to see you.
It's just been one great thing after another.
And the manager of the Jackals, number 6,
I played in the minor leagues for 13 years. I had a lot of injuries that kept me out of the big leagues, and I hung around my last 3 or 4 years solely to do what Crash Davis did, and that's to help kind of teach young guys how to play the game. Hey, oh boy, that's a good play right there. You too.
Now listen to me, you guys. This game of baseball is only one half skill. The other half is something else, something bigger.
I'd like to announce that we have retired the number 8 in honor of Yogi Berra.
You gotta have heart. All you really need
This is a game for America, this baseball. A game for boys and for men.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to present to the president of the Verona Rotary Club.
You take your worries to the park and you leave them there.
He's really got that spark.
Put me in coach. I'm ready to play. Today. Put me in coach. I'm ready to play. Well, I beat the drum and hold the phone. The sun came out today. We're born again. There's new grass on the field. Just around and third and headed for home. It's a brown-eyed, handsome man. Anyone can understand the way I feel.
Wait till it's finished, it's going to look beautiful.
Farewell, so long, forever. Goodbye, Laconia.
fun down there.
1998 sure was a very special season, as the Jackals took home the league championship title. The Jackals won another championship in 2001 and hope to repeat that in 2002.
2002, that was a year where we had a number of players returning from the 2001 season where they had won a championship in the Northern League. But 2002 was such a good team. You literally came to the ballpark every day expecting them to win. I've never had that feeling about a particular team before or since, in terms of just having that positive vibe and seeing how many times they could win over and over and over in a row. And so that was a team that stands out.
The two championships that I was a part of with George Tsamis were also special because
he was with us in 2001 and 2002, and in both of those years he won a championship for us. So in terms of success, you can't have any higher level of success than what George did here, and we were grateful for the time that he spent with our organization.
Because in those days, after we won this part of the country, we used to go and play the winners of the other part of the country, and in our case, we played Winnipeg Golden Eyes twice, and they were a major organization, obviously in Canada, and with significant big players. We had them also, but we had more of a unison of a team. I remember them having quarrels within their dugout, and I remember us taking advantage of that. And that was very special, because now you have one independent champion in the whole country. Quite frankly, there weren't that many independent teams back then, so the competition was very high.
As the New Jersey Jackals entered their 5th anniversary season in 2002, there was much looking back upon the many successes that the team had achieved since its inaugural season back in 1998. Most recent of those successes was the 2001 Northern League Championship that the Jackals had won in somewhat surprising fashion after having completed a 45-45 regular season and making the postseason as a wild card. Fittingly, the Jackals opened up their 2002 campaign by saluting the previous year's champs with the presentation of championship rings. And before the quest for yet another title could begin in earnest, Jackals owner Floyd Hall made sure that everyone could see exactly what it was the team would be playing for. This time, though, the Jackals would be the hunted, not the hunter. Returning players and new players alike knew that repeating as champions would be a daunting task. By mid-June, the Jackals owned a 12-10 record. But on the 16th of that month, New Jersey shut out Elmira 14-0, the start of a franchise record 13-game winning streak, which propelled the Jackals to the first half South Division title. That guaranteed that the Jackals would be the first defending Northern League champion to return to the playoffs in 3 years. Highlighted by dominant play in all areas of the game, there was much reason to celebrate as the Jackals finished the season's first half with a 30-15 record. For the second straight season, right-hander Joel Bennett was the ace of the Jackals pitching staff, leading the league in wins with 14 and strikeouts with 141.
Here comes the payoff pitch. The slider is swung on and missed, strike 3. Joel Bennett leaves the go-ahead runs on base.
The top 4 starters in the rotation, Bennett, Mike Bertotti, Aaron Myers, and Steve Fish, each would win at least 9 games before the season was over, leading the most respected and feared staff in the league. Bertotti would rank second in the league with a career-high 13 victories.
The pitch from Bertotti, swung on and missed, strike 3. Mike Bertotti wins the battle from Ryan Bordenik and finishes off Allentown with the bases loaded in the 9th inning.
Myers posted an 11-6 record and led the Northern League in complete games with 7. In addition, Jeremy Collier proved to be a valuable swingman on the staff. Scott Allen was manager George Tsamis' choice for a lefty out of the pen for the second straight year. And Chris Humrick was a hard-throwing right-hander who pitched in all situations. Adding to the bullpen depth, Tsamis signed 2 of the Northern League's most dominant relievers, set-up man Chris Chavez and closer Ryan Holla for the second half of the season. Chavez would finish with an ERA under 1 run per game,
while Holla ended up with 9 saves. Of course, even the best at pitching needs help from time to time. Diving stop by Conway on the back end. Throws to Turney for 1. Out to first. That's a double play. 4-6-3. What a play by Craig Conway. Line drive down the third baseline and caught by Dan Grice. Flashing the leather on defense, combined with terrific pitching, gave the Jackals 2/3 of their winning formula. But what made them smile the most, and what there could be no argument about, was that offensively the Jackals had the most explosive team in franchise history. Slider here hit high in the air, deep left field. Back goes Nicholas. He's to the track. He's to the wall. It's gone! Grand slam, home run, Ryan Cain! Fastball hit high in the air, right field, pretty deep. Back goes Dan Graham. Dan Graham's to the track. This one's caught up in the wind, and it's gone! Back-to-back home runs, Travis Bailey. Jones looks to third from the stretch. He deals, line drive, base hit, Craig Conway, and the Jackals win the ball game 5-4. Now the 1-1 to Turney, roped into right center field. That's going to find real estate and roll to the wall. With contributions from up and down the entire lineup, New Jersey batted .291 as a team and led the league in home runs with 84 and runs scored with 576. Right fielder Travis Bailey batted .321 with 16 home runs and 75 RBI, leading the league in runs batted in and runs scored and finishing third in home runs. Fellow All-Star outfielder Billy Rich was the second leading hitter in the league, batting .342 on the season, while adding 27 doubles and 63 runs batted in. Third baseman Ryan Cain, yet another All-Star, batted .298 with 12 home runs and 66 RBI. He also smacked a pair of grand slams. Shortstop Chaz Turney led the league in doubles with 34, while batting .298 with 10 home runs and 63 runs batted in. The speedy Billy Brown set the table at the top of the order and batted .313, 10th best in the league. And rookie catcher Michaela Dworkin made the All-Star team, batting .330 and driving in 46 runs. All of that production helped lead New Jersey to a 32-12 second half record. But on Fan Appreciation Night at Yogi Berra Stadium on August the 28th, it would be pitching that would take center stage. Collier, a no-hitter through 9. Now the Jackals have to go out and win the game for him. Dan Grice takes his lead. And the 1-1 pitch is hit high and far. Deep left field. Parrish is back at the wall. It's gone! A game-winning walk-off 2-run home run for Ryan Cain. And Jeremy Collier has the no-hitter. It doesn't get any better than that on Fan Appreciation Night. Awash in good feelings, the Jackals took to the field for Game 1 of their first-round playoff series against the Elmira Pioneers. And it was a pair of veterans from the 2001 team that would lead the way to a 3-0 victory. Bennett looks to second. Now the 1-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Joel Bennett gets Brandon Purnell, and there are 2 men away. Greg Cagle's first pitch on the way is hit high in the air, deep left field. Back goes Alvarez. He's at the track, at the wall. It's gone! Ryan Cain, a 2-run home run. The 1-2 pitch on the inside corner, called strike 3. Joel Bennett catches Ron Bush looking and strikes out the side. Mike Bertotti was nearly as good as Joel Bennett in Game 2 as New Jersey won 2-1 on this first inning blast. Now the 2-0 to Kennedy. Fastball is hit high in the air, deep left field. Alvarez is back at the track. That one's gone! David Kennedy, a 2-run home run. 1 win away from advancing to the second round, the Jackals looked for the sweep in Elmira. However, things did not go as planned for the Jackals, and the highlights were few and far between at Dunfield for the visitors, who lost Game 3 6-4 and Game 4 9-8 to set up a 5th and deciding game on the road. Once again, Joel Bennett was masterful on the mound. And backed by the offense of David Kennedy and Billy Brown, the Jackals won the clincher 6-0, defeating Elmira in a decisive 5th game on the road for the 2nd year in a row. Round 2 of the playoffs saw the Jackals paired against ex-manager Cash Beecham and his Adirondack Lumberjacks. And it didn't take long for New Jersey to show who was boss in Game 1. Dave Callahan swings at the first pitch and hits it pretty deep right field. Back goes King. He's at the track, reaches up, and it's gone! Home run, Dave Callahan! Breaking ball looped into center field. That's going to fall for a base hit. Billy Rich will score. RBI single, Craig Conway. 2-0 pitches it high in the air, deep left field, forget it. Into the Little Falls night, Ryan Kane, his 3rd home run of the postseason. 1-1 pitch on the way, hit high in the air, deep left field. Sylvester's back at the fence, that is gone. A grand slam home run for Craig Conway. With a convincing win in the opener, Travis Bailey set out to keep the momentum going early in Game 2. Santiago's fastball roped into left center field. Nobody's going to get that one. It is high, it is far, and it is gone. Travis Bailey, a 2-out, 3-run home run over the wall in left center field. Adirondack tried to rally in the 3rd inning by loading the bases with nobody out, but Aaron Myers was up to the task. The fans want another strikeout. The pitch is on the way. Swung and missed, strike 3. Aaron Myers does it. Bases loaded, nobody out. Aaron Myers strikes out Jude Bolts. He strikes out Steve King. And now he strikes out Juan Silvestre. Adirondack leaves the bases loaded. Bailey lashes one into right field. In comes King, and it's over his head. He overran it. The ball will roll to the wall. Ryan Kane is rounding 3rd. He'll score. Travis Bailey flying around the bases. He's in at 3rd. Bailey ended the night with 3 hits and 4 runs batted in as New Jersey moved to within a victory of the finals by defeating Adirondack 9-3. But as was the case in the Elmira series, the Lumberjacks would not go quietly in round 2, winning Game 3 7-5 and Game 4 6-5. In Game 5, Adirondack took a 2-1 lead into the 9th inning, but the Jackals would have one more chance at continuing their terrific season, and it all fell on the shoulders of first baseman Dave Callahan. Bases loaded, 2 outs, 3 balls, 2 strikes. They trail 2-1. And the pitch is on the way. There go the runners. Flying drive. Base hit left center field. 1 run will score. Here comes Conway. He'll score. Here comes Billy Brown around 3rd. Billy Brown will score. That is a bases clearing double for Dave Callahan. Down to their last strike. And the Jackals have scored 3 in the 9th inning. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like true champions, the Jackals had stared down adversity and once again won a decisive Game 5 on the road, this time to set up a championship rematch with the Winnipeg Goldeyes. Game 1 out in Winnipeg featured a Goldeyes team bent on avenging last year's loss in the finals. Denny Wagner tossed a complete Game 4 hit shutout as the Goldeyes took Game 1 by the score of 3-0. And for the first time in the 2002 postseason, the Jackals found themselves trailing in a series. The Jackals had to wait 2 days to get their chance at pulling even in Winnipeg. Joel Bennett was dominant in Game 2, striking out the first 5 batters he faced and allowing only 1 run over 7 innings as New Jersey took a 3-1 lead. Line drive right center field, that's a base hit. Michaela Dworkins around 3rd, he'll score. Chaz Turney, a 2-out run-scoring single to right center. A line drive base hit up the middle. 1 run will score. Here comes Billy Rich. Here's the throw by Iris Smith. Not in time. Dworkin to second base, and the Jackals lead 3-1. However, in the 9th, Ryan Holla was injured throwing a wild pitch that allowed a run to score. But Jeremy Collier recorded the final out to preserve the important 3-2 victory. Less than 24 hours later, after having traveled by bus and plane throughout the night and morning, the 2 teams took to the field at Yogi Berra Stadium for a pivotal Game 3. Mike Bertotti was gutsy in allowing only 3 runs over 7 innings, but still New Jersey entered the 9th inning trailing 3-1 before they pulled even on a bases-loaded walk and a sacrifice fly off the bat of Dave Callahan, which set the stage for more Callahan heroics 2 innings later. And the 0-1 pitch hit high in the air. deep right field. Back goes Franco. He's on the track. He's at the wall. It is off the wall. No, it's gone. Dave Callahan, a game-winning home run. Dave Callahan, a game-winning 3-run home run. And the New Jersey Jackals have won Game 3, 6-3. In true Hollywood-type fashion, the Jackals were now just one win away from winning their second straight Northern League title. And they turned to Aaron Myers, who once again faced the bases-loaded none-out jam in the second inning. First, Myers dispatched catcher Ryan Robertson, and then right fielder Bobby Brown, and then shortstop Max Poulan without allowing a single run to score. 3 innings later, Myers repeated the feat when he retired Charles Peterson for the final out of the 5th. New Jersey, meanwhile, scored a run in the second inning, 2 more in the 5th, and another in the 6th to grab a 4-2 lead. Myers pitched into the 7th frame, striking out 8 batters. When he left the game with 2 outs in the 7th inning, Myers and the Yogi Berra Stadium faithful felt that a championship was at hand. Michaela Dworkin's home run in the bottom half of that inning only added to the confident feeling. Chris Chavez pitched the Jackals through the 8th inning, and he turned the ball over to Ryan Holla in the 9th. Now they're on the verge in Game 4 of winning the title. Fly ball, left center field by Ira Smith. Billy Rich is there. He makes the catch, and the Jackals have won back-to-back Northern League titles. Ryan Holla sets down the Gold Eyes 1-2-3 in the 9th inning. Billy Rich has the final ball in his glove, and there's a party at Yogi Berra Stadium. The Jackals had secured back-to-back Northern League championships, something that had been accomplished only once before. In 2001, it was a tale of a strong finish and a somewhat surprising championship. In 2002, the story was of domination, coupled with guts and resolve when the season twice came down to a must-win on the road. Dave Callahan, whose at-bat saved the season in Adirondack, and who is so clutch in Game 3 against Winnipeg, was named as the postseason most valuable player. For the Jackals, their 3rd championship in 5 years was their first one on home turf. In 1998, they won the deciding game of the Northeast League Championship Series in Albany, and in 2001, they partied in Winnipeg. But this year, finally, the Jackals got the opportunity to celebrate with their loyal following. Coaches, players, management, and fans all sharing one championship vision and one championship reality.
Number 1.
2004 would yet be another memorable season for the Jackals organization, as they hired a new manager in Joe Calfapietra.
The last championship that I was able to win with Joe Calfapietra was also special.
The 2 teams we played in the playoffs that year, we played like a league championship series, what would be equivalent to the AL or NLCS, and then the World Series, against 2 teams that are not even in the league anymore. I think we played a team from Bangor, Maine. Isaac was actually part of that team. We beat them in the first round 3-1. Then in the second round, or the championship round, which is like the World Series, we were down to 0-2, and it was a best-of-5 series. So we were down 2-0 to a team from Lynn, Massachusetts. They were called the North Shore Spirit. And we lost the first 2 games at home at Yogi Berra Stadium.
We were down 2-0 in the best-of-3 series, going to play the next 3 games at their field.
So we had to go on the road to try to essentially win 3 games in a row. We were down to our last strike in Game 3 in the top of the 9th inning. They were the home team. We got a base hit to tie the game, and then we won Game 3, I think, in 13 innings. And if I remember, I had a pretty big hit in the 13th inning, which broke the tie. So we won Game 3 to make it a 2-1.
And I remember winning the first game in extra innings. I remember winning the second games very, very tight.
Then it was the same situation the next night. We were down to our last strike. They were 1 strike away from winning the championship. We tied it in the 9th inning, and then won in 11 innings to tie the series 2-2. And then name, I'm sure a lot of Jackal fans are familiar with, Joel Bennett.
Who was our standout pitcher in our history.
He was on all three of the championship teams in 2001, 2002, and 2004. And so in terms of that team, he was at the end of his career and was still pitching for us and also teaching.
You know, the funny story in 04, and a lot of people don't know, we won 2 games, and when we left to go to North Shore, in North Shore, it was kind of, Joel was teaching at the time, so it was like everyone was saying goodbye to him, and every year Joel wasn't playing the next year, so you just never knew when it was going to come to that, because we all knew it was coming to an end at some point. And he said his goodbyes, and so Joel, we're going to get back in this thing, and we're going to win a game, and then we're going to win another game, and it's going to be your turn. He's like, Joe, I got so much to do with school. If it comes to that, we're going to win it without me, And so after we won Game 4, obviously I pick up the phone, and because we used a lot of pitchers in that series, and I said, Joel, we really need you. And he said, Joe, it's going to be very difficult, to do this, and I just got a new position, possibly at school or whatever. I don't know exactly what it was, but he came up and he surprised us, and obviously he had the ball that day and gave us strong innings, and then Aaron closed it out at the end, and it was a very exciting time.
So to win 3 games out of the opponent's field after you're down 2 games to none in the best of 3 series, those are special things that only happen once in your lifetime.
And then to do it with the group of guys that we had that year, and win the championship in the fashion that we did, was one of the more special times that I ever spent in a baseball uniform.
I would say that they were a consistently good team. They were Joe Calfapietro's first team here, so in terms of their success, he was able to put together and piece together a team which went on to win the championship, and for us that was very satisfying.
Well, it was a very resilient team for sure. I mean, I remember winning when we won the first half. We were down 6, 7, 8 games, and we had to raffle off, 13 in a row. And that one year we had to win 4 games in like less than 24 hours. I remember us winning a 2 doubleheaders back to back, a night-day doubleheader, and we needed all those wins, and those 4 wins we got there, and then falling behind in the finals the way we did, and then winning 3 in a row to come back to win the thing. So like all the clubs, very resilient. All the teams are special that I have had in the past, and obviously winning the whole thing makes it a little bit more.
Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in a world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. In 2004, the New Jersey Jackals proved time and time again that impossible was not in their vocabulary. Faced with adversity and hardships, the Jackals put together the most memorable season in team history as they exhibited their will to win. Joe Calfapietro's squad entered the 04 season with high hopes and high expectations. Fresh off a more than strong showing the previous season, it was a chance for New Jersey to take it to the next level and bring the organization to their 4th championship. It was far from easy, but sure wasn't enjoyable. The Jackals welcomed back several key players for the 04 season. Joe Bennett, Jackson Crowther, Craig Conway, Chris Rowan, Alberto Vasquez, Aaron Myers, Kevin Gryjak, and John Anderson, all who had been left yearning for a championship, came back for another season. An opening weekend brought those high expectations even higher, as the Jackals took 3 of 4 from the Bangor Lumberjacks, including a 10-1 throttling of the Jacks on opening night, which featured 6 innings of no-hit ball by Jackson Crowther. Scott Goodman led the Jackals while starting a red-hot 7 for 11 at the plate during the series. But the road became much tougher for New Jersey, literally. Following the completion of their first 3 road series, the Jackals found themselves struggling to keep their heads above water as they plummeted to 0-11 away from the friendly confines of Yogi Berra Stadium. No matter, the Jackals continued to claw their way back into the race in the South Division. Keeping pace was far from easy, as their divisional rival New Haven County Cutters were basking atop the division. In late June, after dropping 3 straight to the powerhouse North Shore Spirit, the Jackals looked to be down and out, but they once again imposed their will to win. The boys in red and black went on an absolute tear, which took the Northeast League by storm. Knowing that the New Haven County Cutters were coming into town, the Jackals stepped up their game. Scores of 9-4, 6-4, and 5-2 were all in favor of New Jersey, helping them come one step closer to being back atop the South. Winning 4 of their next 6 ball games, the Jackals found themselves in a rather non-envious position, especially with starting second baseman Craig Conway sidelined with injury. But the energetic Juan Infante was his replacement and easily shined in his absence. 2 games out of first place, New Jersey was forced to win their next 4 contests against the Elmira Pioneers, simply to force a 1-game tiebreaker with New Haven. There were special circumstances here, though. All 4 contests were scheduled in a matter of less than 24 hours, 2 doubleheaders in less than 1 day. Sounds impossible, right? Well, impossible is nothing to the Jackals. In a span of 22 hours and 43 minutes, New Jersey, led by the starting pitching of Brad Whitworth, Aaron Myers, Joe Bennett, and Josh Miller, accomplished what they were set out to do. They were all victorious, sending the ball club to New Haven the following day for a winner-take-all 1-game playoff for the South Division. Again, the Jackals played another all-or-nothing game, and once again they came out on top. Behind a strong outing by starter Mike Perkins, New Jersey led start to finish, ensuring them a playoff spot come September. As the 2004 campaign reached its midway point, not only were the Jackals enraptured with their team's success, but the organization was pleased to announce 2 Northeast League All-Star selections, outfielder Wadi Almonte and third baseman Wilton Veras. In addition to the Midsummer Classic selections, starting pitcher Aaron Myers was awarded the Rawlings Pitcher of the Month award for July. The Bulldog, as he is admirably referred to, tore through the league with a 4-1 record and a minuscule ERA of 1.06. In 34 innings of work, Myers scattered only 29 hits and sat down 38 batters on strikes. He was absolutely remarkable. With a guaranteed playoff spot in their back pockets, the focus shifted to the outstanding individual seasons that the Jackals players enjoyed. Former Boston Red Sox third baseman Wilton Veras was near automatic at the plate in 2004. Veras' .369 batting average earned him the batting title and also set a new Jackal record. His impressive all-around numbers awarded him the most prestigious honor in the Northeast League, the Player of the Year. Shortstop Chris Rowan wowed the Northeast League with his power to hit the long ball. Rowan crushed 23 round-trippers and ended the year in a tie for the home run title. Along the way, Rowan shattered many Jackal records and league records alike. Rowan's home run explosion helped him eclipse the Jackals single-season record and all-time record. Rock's 3 grand slams also set a new mark in terms of Northeast League records. Another strong showing by longtime favorite Craig Conway solidified him in the New Jersey record books. Conway now proudly leads the organization in games played and runs scored. Veteran Kevin Gryjak also did his part for the Jackals. Along with being a vocal leader of the ball club, Gryjak led the league with 77 runs batted in. Mr. Sparkplug himself, John Anderson, did what a good leadoff man is supposed to do: get on base and score runs. In his second season at Yogi Berra Stadium, Anderson finished tied for the league lead with 66 runs scored. At the conclusion of the second half, the Northeast League All-League team was announced, and deservedly, 3 Jackals were given honors. Chris Rowan joined Wadi Almonte and Wilton Veras, who were both named to the midseason squad. Really lost in the shuffle was New Jersey's bullpen, which helped the Jackals close out ball games in rather impressive fashion. Evan Nizer, Dave Thurno, Craig Breslow, and Lou Wieben led the way to Fabricio Benitez, who was lights out. Benitez notched 15 saves as a Jackal. Nizer also pitched a stretch of 21 innings in relief without surrendering an earned run. And last, but certainly not least in terms of awards, the admirable manager Joe Calfapietra. It was sure a season of milestones for Skip. He picked up his 200th victory as a manager, and he earned his second Manager of the Year award. The playoffs were quickly approaching, and the Jackals had one thing on their minds: a championship.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Victories came rather easy to the ball club in the second half. They ran away with the South Division Championship, pushing their string of division titles to 6 consecutive and setting up a date between themselves and the Bangor Lumberjacks in round 1. In other words, the real drama was about to begin. But honestly, what could top the season that the Jackals already had? What could make an already memorable season into the most incredible one in history? This group of veterans and young men were about to make their marks in professional baseball. In round 1, New Jersey owned home field advantage via winning both halves. The Bangor Lumberjacks strutted into Yogi Berra Stadium with a bit of a swagger, but the Jackals quickly turned the tables. The first 2 ball games at home were thrillers. Darren Sirocco sent the ball game into extra frames with a 9th inning blast, and Jay LaFleur doubled in the 10th inning of Game 1, scoring Scott Goodman, giving the Jackals an early edge in the series. Game 2 featured a second consecutive 1-run game. The Lumberjacks committed costly errors down the stretch that allowed Craig Conway to score in the 7th for the eventual game-winning run. Up 2-0, New Jersey found themselves in the driver's seat heading up to Maine. The Lumberjacks avoided a series sweep by taking Game 3, but their celebration would be short-lived. A highly contested Game 4 quickly turned into a blowout in the late innings as the Jackals advanced to the Northeast League Championship Series with a 15-3 romp in Bangor. Quickly shifting their attention to the NELCS, the North Shore Spirit were the final obstacle in the way of the Jackals. A big obstacle. North Shore put together the best overall regular season record in 2004 and was making their second consecutive appearance in the championship series. This time, the Spirit had the home field advantage as the final 3 games of the best of 5 were scheduled in Lynn, Massachusetts. The Jackals were hoping to take a heavy advantage to Massachusetts after the first 2 games at Yogi Berra Stadium, but it wasn't in the cards. The Spirit flat out showed their spirit by taking 2 nail-biters. Despite New Jersey pitchers Aaron Myers, Craig Breslow, and Joe Bennett striking out 32 combined batters, North Shore played scrappy baseball, winning the contests by a combined 2 runs. Well, that was the turning point. A team that had been accustomed to having their backs up against the wall and being the underdog was once again put into that same position. Down 0-2, New Jersey needed to once again impose their will to win if they were to have a chance in the series. As the series shifted to Frazier Field, the Spirit fans were out in full effect and their brooms in hand. The Jackals had different plans. Down 4-1 in the top of the 7th, New Jersey felt their season coming to a premature close, so they imposed that oh-so-special will once again. After a 2-run rally, Scott Goodman's solo home run in the top of the 8th helped New Jersey force extra innings. Fast forward to the top of the 13th when the Jackals finally extended their season for one more game, at least, when Jay LaFleur continued his postseason heroics and Zach Smithland came through in the clutch as they both combined for 3 RBIs. Too dramatic? Well, Game 4 was all that and more. A 2-all tie carried all the way into the bottom of the 8th when the Spirit broke the deadlock. Well, there are two sides to this story. The Spirit were 3 outs away from winning their first league championship, while the Jackals were 3 outs away from ending a storybook season on a sour note. Would they let that happen? Not a chance. Wadi Almonte, the man who guaranteed a championship after going down 0-2, delivered the tying run on a fielder's choice. Just like he started the season, Scott Goodman ended the season on a hot streak. Goodman's 2-out RBI single in the 11th took the series to a decisive 5th game. Now with nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain, the Jackals came out swinging in Game 5, knowing that the Spirit were on the verge of a monumental collapse. From start to finish, the New Jersey Jackals led the ball game against the North Shore Spirit thanks to a phenomenal pitching effort by 2 of the most admired members of the Jackals, Joe Bennett and Aaron Myers. They held the Spirit to 3 runs while the Jackals topped them with 5 en route to their 4th league championship in their 7-year existence and one of the most remarkable comebacks in league history. When it was all said and done, the Jackals celebrated at Frazier Field, knowing that they had accomplished the impossible. Well, maybe not the impossible, because they proved that impossible is nothing, but definitely the improbable. There was one phrase that epitomized the comeback of the Jackals, and it was uttered by an exuberant manager Joe Calpapietro during a post-game interview. And I quote, "I am the happiest man alive." You can be positive that his group of champions felt the exact same way. Only fitting for a storybook season to have a storybook ending.
My curtain calls. You brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all, but it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose.
Something the Jackals organization pride themselves on is the great reputation they have of getting players back up into affiliated ball. So many players over the years have used the Jackals as a stepping stone to get that second shot and to keep their dreams of making it to the big leagues alive.
That is probably the most bittersweet thing about being a general manager for the Jackals. My job, the manager's job on the field, was to put a quality product on the field and to win. That's all we wanted to do. To see these young athletes that went on, that were able to accomplish more, go to a different level, I couldn't be more proud of the fact that they got that opportunity, which is what they were there for. But every time that somebody would have that opportunity and get that chance, I was happy for them. I felt that they deserved it. I thought that there was a lot of players that played with us over the years that should have had that opportunity and never got it, and I felt that that was wrong and unfair. But at the same time, when you lose your top pitcher or you lose one of your best offensive players, that's tough because that leaves a hole that we had to fill. And it always seemed like they always left either too early in the season or too late in the season, if that makes sense.
There's nothing better than hearing about a Jackal player who's no longer with us because he signed with a an affiliated team, and follow them along and hope to see the next Tim Adelman, or Craig Breslow.
We had a lot of AAA caliber players. We had a few that did go up. A number of them went from our independent league into organized ball and went through the AA and AAA gathers, and a few made it into the majors and stayed. That's a very, very narrow pyramid.
The players that have been able to bounce back, and there's many, many in our history that have bounced back and gotten back into affiliate, they've done it because it wasn't their time to go.
There's not too many organizations can say that they had so many players that reached the ultimate level, and I take extreme pride in that, really, because I've never lost the focus of independent baseball, and it was set up by Miles Wolff a long time ago, and the idea was for players to get second opportunities, and that's what this whole thing's about.
These are people that never, never, never gave up on their dreams. These are players that had it within them, that ever since they were a little child, they were going to make the big leagues no matter what it took. And they got there. And I'm very proud of each one of them and learn from every one of those players.
6 former Jackals were able to reach the ultimate level of the major leagues. The first being a very familiar face around baseball in Craig Breslow.
Well, Craig was one of our first guys, if not the first guy. Craig was an interesting story. He was a player that, it's a very interesting story. He was a player that wanted desperately to have a second opportunity. And obviously you know Craig's background and how many years he's played in the major leagues. Educationally, Craig was extremely astute. Graduated from Yale University, he was planning to be a doctor and the whole bit.
So I'd just been released from the high desert with the Milwaukee Brewers, which is their high A team, and was back home in Connecticut just trying to find a place to play, juggling my future, but knew that I had the rest of the season regardless to finish playing. My agent called a bunch of affiliated teams. No one really had too much interest in it.
He wanted a second opportunity. His minor league numbers were not good at all. Contacted me, wanted me to work him out. That was in that run in '04 when we were really playing well, and I was very reluctant to make a move, player-wise, because all the guys were doing their jobs. We were winning a lot of games, and I'm not that guy just to flip players around just for the sake of it.
We were in New Haven playing the Cutters at the old Yale baseball field, Yale University, and Greg is from Trumbull, Connecticut, which is 15 minutes south of Yale, New Haven.
And there's actually a team in New Haven at the time, which is where I went to school, and they weren't interested.
I get a call when we're heading out to Connecticut, New Haven, to play a play-in game to make the playoffs, because we had to have a play-in game to win the first half. And I was walking out to the bus, because we traveled that day when we played them, and the phone rang, and typically I would just keep on going. I was running a little bit, late on the bus. Pick up the phone, and it's Breslow again. And he says, Joe, he said, I know you guys are coming up here. Is there any way I could just throw a bullpen? And this is probably the third, fourth conversation we've had, and I kind of been delaying it, waiting for something else maybe to happen, to open up a roster spot. Nothing did. So I said, you know what, Craig, listen, Brian Draymond was my pitching coach at the time. I said, I'm a little tied up. I said a little white lie. I said, I'm tied up. I'm not going to be able to watch you throw the pen, but my pitching coach will be down there, and everyone knows Brian's background, pitching in big leagues. One of my best pitching coaches I've had. So I trusted his evaluation.
Right. So I remember getting my gear on and catching. And I remember the pitching coach seeing a couple of baseballs being thrown by Greg, and they were thrown very well.
Something pulled me out, and I went into the dugout. And in New Haven, the dugout on the far end was fairly close to the bullpen. It wasn't in the outfield, or it wasn't hidden by any means. So I started seeing this kid throw. I started hearing it, really, because my eyes were elsewhere. And then Brian whistled down, and he's like, you got to come see this, and he waved to me.
And Joe liked him immediately.
He didn't belong playing independent baseball when I saw him at first. I truly felt that. And
we gave him till the end of that game to bring his stuff so he can be on the bus to go to Nashua. And sure enough, he met us at the bus, and he joined our team.
We settled on the Jackals, who had an opening. I went and threw a bullpen for some of the coaching staff. They liked what they saw and invited me back.
That's only the story of how Breslow originally signed with the Jackals. He then had to go through several more steps to get another opportunity in affiliated ball.
It took place over a couple of months because I was initially invited back to Arizona prior to spring training in 2005 after finishing the season with the Jackals in 2004. For kind of a workout with some independent ball players that had showed some promise during the previous season. So I went out there and then was invited back to spring training, and then made the AA team out of spring training. So it wasn't a kind of a single event so much as a process that I kind of kept checking boxes all across the way.
I think at the time we probably didn't know the caliber of his pedigree, so when he did ultimately get picked up by the affiliateds and then move into the major leagues, we were excited because he was the first player for the Jackals that had never been to the major leagues and ascended to that level. So it was fun to watch his career. He carved out a nearly 10-year career, if I recall, maybe a little bit longer, of being a very good reliever in the major leagues with a number of different teams, and went to see him a couple of times just because we wanted to see a former Jackal playing in the major leagues. So he was an exciting player to watch from a Jackals perspective, and we were ecstatic to see him do very well at the major league level.
It was definitely a special time in my life. It was, it was a point where I was kind of in a crossroads in terms of what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to continue to pursue this dream of playing baseball, or it was time to grow up and get a real job. And I think my time with the Jackals gave me a little bit of clarity. It took some pressure, the burden of getting caught up in the pressure of minor league baseball. Took it away. It was more kind of like a summer league type experience where I made some great friendships, had a great experience, and enjoyed playing baseball again. And so it was really refreshing, kind of allowed me to reset and appreciate the game and how much I enjoyed playing it.
Then the rest is history. As a World Series ring, and it's just a great story, and like all of them are.
Pitchers tend to have a better opportunity to get signed while in independent ball. However, that didn't seem to faze first baseman John Lindsay.
John Lindsay was another guy that had an opportunity to play in the big leagues. Actually played with us twice. Signed with the Florida Marlins the 1 year. didn't get a true opportunity, then came back and then signed with the Dodgers. And I believe John was the oldest American player to reach the major leagues.
John Lindsay was a great player here. We called him the Mayor. He had a nickname, so that obviously tells you that he was a fan favorite. When he got his call up, it was long overdue. He'd been in AAA and had performed very well for a couple of years. So we were ecstatic that he got his cup of coffee to demonstrate that he was a major leaguer.
His whole game was attitude. You know, always had the biggest smile on his face. One of the best teammates in the locker room.
He also holds an interesting, notable characteristic, and that is that he had the first professional hit in China when the Dodgers went over to play a spring training game over in that continent. So his ball is in the Hall of Fame, and we like that, to know that there's a piece of Jackals lore, so to speak, that's in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
There was a funny story because he was talking, his manager was Joe Torre, and I'm no Joe Torre by any means, and he had an interview and he said, well, I want to thank Joe, my old manager, and the reporter didn't hear the old manager, and they start talking about Joe Torre, and then John had to stop him sheepishly and say, no, my old manager back in New Jersey was named Joe also, and that was a special moment, and he kind of sent me the articles because they put a little blurb in there about that, and that was neat, you know, that he was talking in that vein.
I remember him, and I remember Wilton Veras, okay, who I remember him telling Joe Calfapietra to put him in, not with the veterans, and not ever since, although he was a major leaguer, to put him next to the rookies in the locker room. You know, that tells you a lot and everything you wanted to know about a player and a person. And that's why he's still a coach with the Boston Red Sox in Dominican Republic.
The next Jackal to make it was a lefty pitcher from Cuba in Raul Valdez.
Raul Valdez had another whole story. Raul Valdez had escaped Cuba 5 times before he was able to make it. And the reason he kept escaping Cuba, because they not allowed him to play baseball, which is everything he wanted to do in life. We got him on a trade, and he didn't have anybody here in this country. He didn't have anywhere to go. The only thing he had to do is to go forward. Sometimes, you know, when you burn the boats, you just have to go forward, and that's exactly how he viewed baseball. The only way is to go up, up, and up.
And a guy, when you saw him, really didn't deserve to be there, but for chance that he was there and pitched extremely well for us in different roles. I think he started a couple games, came out of the bullpen, and he had electric stuff.
And he got an opportunity to play for us. He did very well, and then I believe he was signed by the Mets in AA when he eventually made the big league team in the Mets.
While he was in the major leagues, at one point he came back and visited the team to give some advice to the players due to Joe inviting him back, and I thought that was a great thing to give back to the organization that had helped him move all the way up to the major leagues.
Stu Pomerantz was a starter for the Jackals in 2009, where his contract was eventually purchased by the Colorado Rockies.
Stuart Pomerantz was a guy, when he was with us, he was really trying to find himself. He was a high-round draft pick, big guy, dynamic arm. He was a guy that, you know, needed to find himself spiritually before he was able to find himself on the baseball diamond, because, you know, he had a couple things going on in his life when he got released that, you know, he was hurt. He was hurt by it, and he needed to kind of find his way. And thank God he did, because again, another guy that got his second opportunity, worked his way up, and had a chance to pitch in the major leagues, and you know, that was a special moment.
Tim Adelman was another pitcher who showed a lot of promise during the 2013 season. After becoming the team's closer, Adelman's fastball jumped in velo up to the mid-90s, which caught the eye of the Cincinnati Reds, who later gave him an opportunity.
Timmy Adelman was a player that we got from Texas, El Paso. Very strong arm, young, good shape, and a great attitude.
you could see that Tim Adelman threw very hard. He threw probably around 94, I want to say even 95, 96 sometimes. But he was able to eventually become the closer for us, and he just was able to gain his confidence as to how he can take over a baseball game with his fastball. And he a lot of the times threw a curveball that would let a lot of guys were able to swing and miss through, because he was always ahead in the count 0-2. And closing the game, he became extremely effective. So I think when he was with us, you could see him develop into the very confident baseball player that he was.
I certainly saw a guy who could go out there and shut the game down. He was really reliable in the ninth inning. Guys couldn't touch him. He would always find ways to fan guys.
He's in the clubhouse, a great guy to be around. He always had his own special towel. But seeing him, that was the one thing I always remember, was just like, oh wait, he's on now? Go home, flip it open, put the TV on, make sure I was watching him. It's just great excitement to see them. They were all here once, getting out and going on to what was their dream and eventually making their dream.
The amazing thing about Tim is once he got signed by the Reds, and the first year that he got called up, they'd had a lot of injuries, so you're wondering, well, is it because the team is relatively weak or not? But he proved in his time up that he could pitch in the major leagues. And the subsequent season, when the Reds had overcome their injury woes from the year before, he still was able to carve out a major league rotation spot for the Reds, and showed that he was legitimately a major leaguer. And perhaps in some ways I would say he was the most successful because he was actually starting games at the major league level. So that's very impressive.
Tim was a special guy. A good friend of mine, Sean Pender, now the farm director with the Reds, was in the front office, upper end scouting, and I just asked him to take a look at a couple of guys. I think he looked at Powers that same day, and he's a guy that got an opportunity and went all the way up in the big leagues. He's making a lot of money now overseas, and I remember just telling the stories about, Breslow and Adelman. These guys were making under $1,000 a month when they were playing for us in New Jersey, and God knows how much Breslow made in the big leagues, and I know Tim made a good amount of money also. So it's really neat to see. I still talk to Tim on a basis, 3, 4, 5 times a year, and he's always there if I need to get a connection with another player, and special people, special relationships.
If you enjoy playing the game, then stick with it, because you never know what could happen. A little adjustment here, a little adjustment there, and you get an opportunity, and you just never know what happens. So as long as you love playing the game, stick with it.
The most recent Jackal to make it to the big leagues was Robert Stock. Stock came to the Jackals in 2016 as a longtime prospect. Following the 2016 season, he was given an opportunity in the Cincinnati Reds organization. After a great jump in velocity, Stock signed with the San Diego Padres, with whom he made his major league debut with in 2018.
The story about Robert is public now, with not playing his senior year in high school and going to college and transferring from a catcher to a pitcher and struggling in the minor leagues as a pitcher, and kind of getting an opportunity with New Jersey and felt him, that he was doing well. Again, was able to give him an opportunity with Cincinnati through Sean Pender. He had a really good year in 17, was AA All-Star, and decided to sign elsewhere and got an opportunity to play in the big leagues.
He pushed himself every single day to try and get to that major league level, and reinvented himself really. He put in the work and basically went on the internet and got himself found by scouts, and next thing you know, he's in the major leagues for the Padres. So it's an amazing sight to see all the stuff that he did, and really he worked every single day at it, and he was good here in New Jersey, and you could tell he was something special just by his work ethic.
To see him on the television this year and watch his development has been impressive. He clearly looks like a guy that is in shape, doing a fine job, and clearly his fastball is still there. It looks like he's refined his approach and has improved since he was here at the Jackals. So we were ecstatic to see yet another pitcher that was a former Jackal develop into what hopefully will be a stable player in the San Diego bullpen.
Leading the Jackals through most of its existence was a manager who gave everything he had to his team. Joe Calfapietro was such an integral part of the Jackals organization from 2004 to 2016, where he won a championship and led the Jackals to many championship series.
Well, it started, when I was back in Gary, Indiana, when I was managing the team out there, and George Samus, a very good friend of mine, was in New Jersey. And he took a job, he was accepting a job in St. Paul, and he called me and he knew I was, still had a young family and wanted to try to get back, to the East Coast. And so he was the one that first clued me into what was going on. I had a relationship with the Halls when I managed, the New Jersey Jackals, and I was director there. So it just seemed like an easy fit. And then when I got the phone call, it was something I wanted to entertain.
Joe is a baseball rat. He is a guy that started, as I understand it, in what was called, I think, the MAC League back in the 80s, which was the equivalent of a independent league at the time because they really didn't exist. And I understand that he was a very good first baseman at that level, and so baseball was in his blood. He got an opportunity to move into the coaching ranks, and once he was given an opportunity to coach first for the Gary North Shore Railcats for a year where they were on the road for their entire season, yet he still managed to carve out a 500 record with that team, which was an amazing accomplishment. And then he came to the Jackals in 2004.
I mean, the Jackals always had a great reputation. Before I got there, with Cash Beecham and George Samus. So I knew a little bit about the organization and being a manager in that league when I managed in Allentown. When I got there, I knew they had the winning tradition, and I knew that's what my goal was, to come in and win on a year-to-year basis. And we felt that we did that, and I just hope at the end of the day the Halls were proud.
Joe Calfapietro has the longest tenure of any of the managers that we've had with the Jackals, and he was instrumental in putting a winning product on the field year in and year out. You could see that he improved upon his ability to understand what kind of players to bring in and to develop here at the Jackals, and did a great job of bringing players that were competitors, that had talent, that had the ability to perform at the professional level. And because of that, over the course of his number of years with the Jackals, he continued to excel. Won in 2004, took the team to, I want to say, 6 championships over the course of his tenure here with the team, and so that's a very impressive career for Joe.
I love New Jersey again. I love the fans. My owner was outstanding, and I truly felt that I was a part of the organization. I was the face of the franchise for a long time.
We wish him nothing but the best now out in Kansas City with the T-Bones, and we loved him for the time that he was here.
It was 14 years I spent there, and it was my home. It was my kids' home. I mean, I watched both my kids grow up there, so it's very special memories of everyone there, the fans, the bat boys, the concession people, and clubhouse guys that came in, with Wally and Danny and the others that might have helped out. And it was just a long time that you spend in one place, and it was just very special.
The Jackals have had some loyal players over the years. Zach Smithman was just that, a solid player for the Jackals who proved to be one of the greatest hitters in Jackals history.
It's funny, my story is a little bit different probably than most other people's. I grew up locally in Fairlawn, so that's about 15-20 minutes from Yogi Berra Stadium. And where I grew up, my neighbor was Mario Ramos. So you hear the last name Ramos and you might think Jackal legend Ani Ramos, and it happened to be Ani's brother, was who my neighbor was, Mario. So there was one day where Mario was having a family party, and Ani was actually over his brother's house, and my dad started talking with Ani randomly, and Ani, you know, alluded to the fact that he was a coach for a, you know, minor league professional baseball team, and you know, my dad, being a proud father, said that you know, his son, me, was you know, an aspiring baseball player, and thought that I had what it took to, you know, play at that level. Like a lot of proud fathers who maybe don't really know, you know, everybody who thinks their kid is, you know, Mickey Mantle, Ani kind of, you know, brushed it under the rug. But I was invited to the tryout after I was released from the St. Louis Cardinals organization in 2000. I was released from St. Louis after the 2003 season, so I went to the Jackals tryout. It wasn't the open tryout, they knew I was coming, but in 2004, and you know, made the team, and from there, you know, everything kind of fell into place. But you know, it's kind of a funny story with the Ani thing, and then, you know, Joe, I had spoken with Joe Calfapietra, who at the time was the manager also, so he knew that I was coming, and you know, I was invited to the not just the tryout, but also spring training. So even if I had a bad tryout, I think I kind of had the spring training invite anyway, but that's kind of how it all fell into place.
Zach was another player who was also a local guy, and so from that standpoint, it was great to see Zach as a player for the Jackals.
Zach was another guy, you know, that I had as a young player, and he had an opportunity to re-sign and then came right back to us, and you know, I'm sure he's still the all-time hit leader, and played extremely hard and loved the Jackals and loved the organization, and you know, just very fortunate to have some time that I was able to spend with him.
The interesting thing about his career is he started in the affiliated and was actually with the New Jersey Cardinals and played up at Skylands Park, which is close by. So we'd seen him play as a player previously, and so when he came to the Jackals, we'd already known him in terms of being a minor league player who had played in this area. He was a superior defensive center fielder who made us confident in his ability to make plays out there, and saved a lot of runs over the number of years that he was here. He had a lot of big hits. I would say he's one of the definitive players in Jackals history in terms of his speed and ability to drop down a bunt, get a single for a bunt single, and then steal a base and manufacture and create runs. So we were happy to have him as a player here for the number of years that he played for the Jackals.
Zach's another incredible person. In addition to, he was a great baseball player. Some of the things he did as a player, he played exceptional defense. He led the league in batting one year, and he wasn't a guy who drove balls over the fence, which is the way this game is going. He was a gap-to-gap guy. He put balls in play, and he was fast. He bunted as well as anybody I've ever seen at any level, and that helped him win a batting title. And then if you check the record books again, you're going to see his name there. Stolen bases is another one, runs scored. But again, beyond what they did on the baseball field, Zach's another good quality person, and that's what we like. You know, we want to promote, and that's what this, I believe that's what this organization and what this game and what this environment here is all about.
I got a call from the Jackals between the 2010 and 2011 season, and when I saw that, you know, at the time Larry Hall, who was the general manager and, you know, president of the Jackals, he left a message. I saw a missed call on my phone from Larry, and I thought it was in regards to, you know, not necessarily making a comeback since I had just played the 2010 season, but I thought they were asking me, or were going to be asking me to come back to play. And then when I listened to the message and heard what it was kind of deflating to know that they didn't really need my baseball services anymore. But then when you take a step back and think about the fact that, you know, this is a professional baseball organization, and you've meant so much to them, to the fact, you know, to the point where they want to retire my number, that's the greatest honor, you know, any organization can bestow on a former player. So as soon as I got over the fact that, you know, my playing career was officially done, I was, you know, to answer the question, I was more than honored to have the Jackals want to retire my number.
Isaac Pavlik is arguably the best pitcher in New Jersey Jackals history. Coming back year after year as the Jackals ace, Isaac was a fan favorite and fans enjoyed watching him pitch for the Jackals.
So I was released in 2004 from the Colorado Rockies out of High A, and you know, I had a sports agent at that time, and he was trying to figure out the best scenario for me to continue to play. So I was already out on the West Coast, and it was the San Diego Padres and the Oakland Athletics who were interested in me. Nobody bit, and I wasn't playing for a couple weeks, so I had to go sign. So at that time, my sports agent said either Bangor Lumberjacks, which was a team in our league, or the New Jersey Jackals. And I had no idea what any of that meant, because independent baseball wasn't as established back by then. So I just signed with the Bangor Lumberjacks. Then from there was picked up by the Padres. Once I found out where the Jackals played, I realized I wanted to play there. And so I just waited until I was traded to the New Jersey Jackals.
The great thing about Isaac is that he is one of our own. He's a local guy from Bergen County, and he was here with us in excess of 10 years, and we considered him one of our own. So.
Yeah, well, Isaac was with me for a long, long time. I mean, when you talk about, you know, the championship runs, not the championship titles, but the runs that we made, you know, I always wanted to be linked with Isaac through a championship. We're always going to be linked, the amount of time we played with each other, but that's just a regret of mine that we never got a chance to celebrate at the end, because he was with me for so long and was so good for me for so many years.
From a standpoint of what Isaac has done for the organization, he's provided a stability as a player who was accepted at one point that, you know what, this is where he's going to play, this is his team, and we developed a camaraderie with him as a competitor on the field that was a very good player for the Jackals, and friendship. Over time you get to know and you get to talk to these guys. That's one of the great things about minor league baseball, is you have access to communicate with these guys if you want. It's very different than the major leagues in that it's sometimes difficult to get in direct contact with your heroes, if you will.
The one thing I'll say about having somebody like Isaac that made all of baseball special for me wasn't that Isaac came back. It wasn't that he was always there. It was great, don't get me wrong, to have a top-notch, top-quality pitcher that came back season after season. That made our lives earlier as far as a competitive team on the field. But what I enjoyed more was Isaac the man himself. Isaac was a guy that I liked being around. I liked running into him, saying hello. You know, he was a better person than he was a ball player, and he was a very, very good ball player.
Another guy, loyalty, you know, with a lot of ability. He wasn't just here because we liked him. He could get people out, and he got some experience beyond the Jackals in affiliated ball as well. And it's hard work, it's commitment to your craft, and it's loyalty. I mean, for him to keep coming back all those years, he's a name that many people will never forget. You know, and all you have to do is look at the Jackals record book, and his numbers there speak for itself. But more importantly than what he did on the field, I mean, he's a good person, and that fits for what I believe this place is all about. You want good people, and you want people to come with their families, and you know, if you have a recognizable name, you want it to be somebody that, you know, is a stand-up guy, good character, smiling face, good camaraderie, you know, and gives back to the game, you know, as a coach. And a lot of good things I could say about Isaac. He's a good man.
Now, Isaac Pavlik was really just a wonderful pitcher for that team. I mean, you talk about a guy who has leadership. You talk about a guy who has guts. One thing that was unfortunate for Isaac is that he got hit by the injury bug a number of times, but he never let that stop him. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to really use for their own lives, for that matter. You know, no matter what setback you have, you use that as motivation to get yourself back up. 2013, he has the big injury where he injures the knee, he has the ACL tear after stepping on first base against Quebec, is lost for the season. If we had him for the rest of the season, who knows? Maybe we end up winning that championship that year. But he comes back the next year, has the year of his life, wins 9 games, one of the best years he's had since 2012, when he won 12 games that year. He was phenomenal that year. So he's a guy who's tough, leader, and a guy who just knows how to pitch. And that's why he's so important for even the pitchers, young pitchers for that matter.
I remember going to visiting a spring training, and there was a player, his name escapes me now, but he was with the Marlins, and he was pitching AAA. And he had gotten signed from us back to affiliate in the AA, and he had been promoted to AAA. And I was out there seeing another player, and he just happened to walk by me. And he stopped and looked at me and he said, "Hey guys, come here. This is my indie coach. This is Ani Ramos, my indie coach." And we got talking, and he introduced me to all the AAA players from the Marlins. And I remember him telling me that I have an Isaac Pavlik signed baseball in my room. And you know what? That's the kind of guy he is. Here's a kid that's on the verge of going to the big leagues, and he thought that Isaac Pavlik was one of the best teammates he'd ever had in his life. He's just a joy to have on the bus. He's just a joy to have in a hotel. He's just a joy to have in the clubhouse. He's just one of my favorite baseball players that I've seen, and overcoming baseball player that I happened to work with all winter.
He was a stand-up class act who performed well here. He holds virtually all of the longevity records for the Jackals in terms of being a pitcher based upon the number of years that he was here, and it was exciting to see him play during his career here with the Jackals.
Another familiar face was a former Major League catcher, Ed Ott, who was with the Jackals for several years, helping players learn and develop. He helped out Joe Calfapietro greatly in the beginning stages of his managerial career.
Well, Ed goes back further than New Jersey, back with me in Allentown, and then my time even in Kansas City. He came out and spent time with me. He's a special man that's been a mentor for me, and has really paved the way for doing what I'm doing now. I've learned a lot from him, and he wanted to teach me, and I feel very honored and privileged that he took me on like that.
What's New Jersey Jackals baseball without a good rivalry? The Jackals have always had several distinct rivalries over the years.
The Jackals over the years have been since they've been in 3 leagues and it's independent baseball, teams move in and out of any given league. And so early on, our rivalry was definitively the Allentown Ambassadors. We, as a fan base, adopted kind of the personality of our team. We were early on very much felt like a Yankee organization in the Northeast League, and the Allentown Ambassadors felt very much like a Boston Red Sox. So it was that kind of a rivalry. There were clashes, there were fights between the teams, and that led to a very strong rivalry with that organization. So they were definitively our first legitimate rival. There were other teams in the league that were competitive, but it wasn't always necessarily that same feeling. After Allentown ceased to exist, the longevity of our interaction with Quebec, Les Capitales, I think went on to move into a period where they were our arch rival, and a lot of that had to do with their success.
And the team that kind of always stood out when you think about the Can-Am League is the team in Quebec, and I think they're still around now. And it was a long trip, and it was a different culture up there because you're up in up in the province of Quebec where it's French speaking, and you got to kind of during the day before you report to the stadium. You got to kind of make your way through the day speaking French, going to the restaurants for lunch. It's a little bit difficult, but getting to play at that stadium, it's not a modern stadium, it's an old wooden ballpark, but it just gives you that feel of what minor league baseball is all about. And the people up there, once the Expos left the major leagues, I guess in the early 2000s, that was really the only form of professional baseball that they had. So they would always fill the stadium. There would always be people there, hours before the game tailgating, and that was always a really fun place to play. Not to mention that was always one of the better teams in the league too. So we had a lot of battles and wars with the team from Quebec.
They were definitively the standard bearer of success within the league. And because of that, everybody wants to knock off the champ. And I think that from our past success, we felt that we could be the one to do that. And most of the time, we've come up short in that way. But they became a rival.
Everyone was our rival, really. I mean, that's how I always looked at it. Any team we're playing is trying to take something from us, and if it was that particular game or a playoff spot or a championship. So they were all our rivals. The one that took the most from us was, Quebec City, because there was a number of times we played them in big games, at the end, and championships, and fell short. But I always looked at them all being our rival.
However, I think that shifted once we had the ascension of a new organization in the Rockland Boulders. And the Boulders have definitively become a rivalry for the Jackals because of their close proximity to us. They're just over the border of north of New Jersey in Rockland County, and they have had a lot of games with us that have been highly contentious. There have been a lot of high energy games with that organization. I remember early on, before we'd ever even played a game up there, I met one of their management staff here at a Jackals game, and he told him I was the trumpet guy, and he says, "Oh, well, we'd love to have you come up. We want to develop this rivalry between the Jackals and the Boulders." And he commented to me during that discussion that they were patterning a lot of the things that they do with the Boulders after the successes that the Jackals have had. So from that perspective, we'd like to think that we've had some impact on how they've run their organization. They've done a fine job up there, but admittedly, the Boulders rivalry has now ascended to that team that we want to beat very badly. They've had a number of incidents over the years that have raised the bar, whether it be clashes up in Rockland or battles down here that have led to, shall we say, a little bit more aggressive level of play. And from a fan's perspective, we love it because it brings another level of enjoyment to watching the game, because you like to have a rivalry. You like to have the opponent that you really want to beat.
Aside from players, there have been a few employees who have been very successful as well. It includes former broadcasters Jim Cerny and Kevin Burkhardt.
They've had not only a history of developing players, but we've also had some really good employees within the Jackals organization over the years. A couple notable ones in particular would be Kevin Burkhardt, who is now doing NFL games and Major League games, and he moved on to the Mets after being with the Jackals. And Jim Cerny as well has been a very successful part of the Jackals organization in its formative years. And they were so very talented. When you listen to them on the radio, they brought a class and a plumb to what they were doing at a professional level that you knew that they were going places. So in many ways, Kevin in particular is a guy who was part of the Jackals family tree in my mind that has been in many ways one of the most successful Jackals, even though he never really stood on the field, but he was the voice of the Jackals and did that for a very long time, and we're grateful to have had him here and to still see him every year on the television and say, hey, he's one of our guys. He came through the Jackals family tree. So that's very special for those of us that got an opportunity to listen and interact with him in the early years here at the Jackals.
Over the years, there have been so many great moments at Yogi Berra Stadium, which created memories for fans, players, and coaches forever.
Well, I mentioned the game comeback in 1998. I would say that the two no-hitters that have been pitched here, Jeremy Collier, I think, did it in 2002, and the Bulldog did it in, I think, 2006. So those both stand out.
Just last season in 2018, newly acquired right-hand pitcher Eduardo Lopez threw another no-hitter against the Ottawa champions. It was just the third no-hitter in New Jersey Jackals history.
Specific games, I like the Cuban series, which happened a few years ago. That was really exciting. It brought a lot of the energy that the early years seemed to have for the Jackals, and so I enjoyed that immensely. There are so many. There's a series of games in 1999 where we had a player who had a 39-game hitting streak, and it was one of those times where it wasn't necessarily all about the game itself. You still wanted to see the player come to the at bat, and Carmine Campuccio on the 1999 team had a 39-game hitting streak to end the season, and so at the end of that year, it was one of those periods where you came to the ballpark, even if the team might not be performing well or wasn't winning, you still wanted to be in your seat to see if he could keep that hitting streak alive. So that was a special series of games as well. There have been a lot of great moments here, walk-off moments.
The one guy I really loved watching was Art Charles. He's down in Mexico now. He was a great player here.
Art Charles comes to mind in terms of a period here where we had a guy who won a Triple Crown, and so that was an exciting period as well.
Yeah, but Art Charles really, he stuck out in my mind. He was a great player and even better person off the field.
We didn't win the championship that year, but Game 5 against Quebec, when we were down 3-1, bottom of the 9th, sacrifice fly, won the game, we went nuts. We went to Game 7. We lost in Game 7, which is unfortunate.
I would say some of them stand out for me are obviously going to the playoffs. We've been to the playoffs every year. I was there for 4 years. Every year we were very, very competitive and went to the postseason. And in the postseason, we would had some moderate success. Obviously, we never got a chance to win the ring. I think ultimately that's the top prize. But getting a chance to go to an LCS for 3 straight years, seeing a Game 7 up in Quebec with such a tremendous atmosphere. And we had a chance to win that game. We were up 5-1 in the middle of the ball game, and it looked like we were going to do something special. Nick Giraputo had a big-time hit in the middle of that game, and unfortunately, Quebec just put together a huge rally, 7 runs. I think it was in the 6th inning, and they would wind up winning 12-5. So that was heartbreaking. Obviously, the next year, going up against Rockland, having a 2-0 series lead.
When we were down 7-3. I believe 7-3, or it was 6-2. Either way, we were down 4 runs to Rockland Boulders in Game 4 of the championship series.
Jackals are down 6-2. They have the bases loaded. It's raining, and here comes Joe Dunnigan. And I even said in the air, it would be kind of nice if he hit a home run here, not thinking it's ever going to happen.
And Sean Gilblair was pitching, lefty specialist, was pitching against Joe Dunnigan, and he hung a slider to Joe Dunnigan. And
boom, the ball goes right over the fence into the parking lot in Provident Bank Park, and the Jackals tie the game at 6.
That was probably my a memory that will forever be in my thoughts.
The Jackals have the bases loaded with their best contact, with their best power here at the plate. Here comes the pitch. Swung on it, driven to right. Going back at the track. It's gone! It's gone! It's gone! It's gone! It's a grand slam home run for Joe Dunnigan! Oh my goodness! Joe Dunnigan, you are a beast! Incredible! Joe Dunnigan, a grand slam homer! And the Jackals tie the game at 6. Here in the 7th inning, they pour out of the dugout to greet Joe Dunnigan. Unbelievable play!
It's just the great little moments that have been a big part of my time there. A lot of them on the road. A lot of them, especially, in Trois-Rivières, seeing Art Charles and also Joe Dunnigan over the years go yard in that ballpark, very tiny yard. So a lot of great moments for me.
Well, they all do, really. I mean, you can go down year by year and every year has a special, event. We went on a run. We went to the championship a number of years in a row and didn't come home with the title, which is, disappointing. You look back on it and the opportunities that we had there, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. But, a lot of players re-signed back with Major League affiliates. We won a heck of a lot of games. It was a very exciting time in my career.
Jackals baseball has touched so many people's lives and has left different impressions on so many people. What does Jackals baseball mean to you?
Jackals baseball is competitive hardball. I've always been impressed by the level of play here at the independent leagues, whether it was the Northeast League, the Northern League, or the Can-Am League. And fortunately, the Jackals have been a winning organization over the number of years. It's been fun to come to the ballpark and have a team that wins year in, year out. They've won 4 championships in their history. They've been to 9 championships. And while we haven't seen one in a while that's ended with the brass ring, it's been a lot of fun, and it's enjoyable to come to the ballpark during the summer and be close to what I consider our community team.
Coming to the park, the fans, the winning tradition that, that we had, everyone expected us to win. It was like every year it's going to be, the Jackals were going to be there again. And, so that buzz every year was exciting.
Winning is that we're there to win the championship. We're not there to compete. So for the how many years I've been there, we're just bringing in so many guys that we're not looking for you to develop, we're looking for you to compete at the high level. And it established us as basically a team that, we were coming to win. We were coming to beat you, okay? We weren't coming for anything else.
Well, I like to see a team win. This has been a winning franchise for most of its years, and the organization throughout has seemed to be committed to putting a winning product on the field. And from my perspective as a baseball diehard, I love to see competitive baseball and to see a team that's going to go out there and give their best to win every day and every year. And the Jackals have done that through this point in their history. So.
Winning the championships didn't hurt my morale any either. I loved baseball. I played on baseball teams in California when I was a kid. Unfortunately, we didn't win 4 championships or even close to it, but nevertheless, it's a great sport. And all the other activities, the fireworks night, and all the other things that we were able to do, and the things that I heard about from members of the community telling us how much they enjoyed being there and everything else, that was my reward.
Prepared every night, how we handle failures. We had like every other thing. When you're out there competing, you're going to go through your 5-game losing streaks. How do you overcome those? And that's what the lessons that are being watched and learned from the kids that are there, that was huge. The fans were fantastic. I enjoyed all the games. I remember the season ticket holders, as well as when we got in 4,000 to 5,000 people on a Saturday night for the fireworks. The fireworks were spoken about forever.
But admittedly, it's a summer family. It's a place to see a ball game that's close to home. I would liken it very much to what I think that the Brooklyn Dodgers were like back in the day when they were the local team in Brooklyn and everybody adopted them as their team in that area. That is the way the Jackals seemingly feel to me as well here at Yogi Berra Stadium.
The people, the players that you come across, they're all the memories, and when you leave, you start thinking about those people and those memories.
It's a fun environment. It's a great team, and you see a lot of players that have former Major League experience or looking to get to the Major Leagues. You see all different players from different levels, and it's a really nice mix of talent. So I think that's a special thing that the Jackals have here in New Jersey.
I think the experience here it's such a great thing for the community and the people that come. It's really, it's professional baseball, it's high-level baseball, but the amusement that I see on kids' faces, whether it's catching a foul ball, or getting to slap five with Jack the Jackal or take a picture. Anything that I do on the field just is extra, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Seeing the kids, the fulfillment of it, they're from kids that I saw them from 3, 4, maybe even a little bit younger, but 4 or 5 year olds, and saw them become young adults. I think the enjoyment that they got out of the stadium and the wonderful experiences that they had there, making other friends and everything else, that was probably the biggest thing.
But the core of what this is all about is that family entertainment, and a good affordable night out where you can bring the family. It's not going to break the bank. You feel safe. There's things for the kids to do.
Baseball's a great game. It's one of these games where you can watch it and you can talk to people at the same time. And because of that, you get to know people. I enjoy interaction with all of the season ticket holders that are here as well, or the regulars, if you will, and having that camaraderie with basically your summer family. That, in addition to people that are casual fans that come up to you and talk to you during the course of a game, makes it a lot of fun to have that interaction with people and talk about the things that you've seen in the past, and the things that are going on the field, and just enjoying the game of baseball.
A professional organization can't be successful without a great ownership group. For 19 years, Floyd Hall led the organization and kept things moving in a great direction. Shortly after the season in 2016, the Halls decided that it was time to make a very tough decision.
Well, without Floyd, he was instrumental in, first off, bringing the team here into Montclair State and to the area. Without his vision, we would never have had a team around here. So, I hold him in the highest respect from a perspective of being a man who wanted to have a professional baseball franchise. I don't think there's any question that in addition to it being a business, he wanted a winning organization. He wanted to win. He wanted a baseball team, and this was his baby, so to speak. And so bringing them in and working out an arrangement with Montclair State to build the stadium and have them here was a great boon for the community around here. And without him, we wouldn't have the Jackals. So I'm very grateful for what he's done to bring this organization into northern New Jersey.
Well, he was the guy, and when it came to leaving, that was the big thing. Larry Hall and Floyd and Jan were very, very special to me. They were very loyal to me over the 14 years, and I was very loyal to them. And there were opportunities elsewhere in independent baseball. I didn't want to hear them. I really didn't, because this was my team, this was my guy, and that's all I wanted to do was just, bring him a championship and make him proud. And there was a lot of years this man, put his time and effort and his financial resources to build this club, and we should be very grateful for what he did.
He created it. He got it off the ground, he sustained it. I hear a lot about independent baseball. It's hard to keep something going and sustaining it. I think I've already used the words, I'm forever indebted to Floyd, his son Larry, for having the guts to do what they did, to being successful people, and to say we want to build something to give back to the community. Sure, it's a business, you want to make money through it, but that ice arena right down the road here, and this stadium, it's a special place in my heart, and I know it's a special place in many other people's hearts. And I don't know if when they built this stadium and/or that ice arena, they knew how many lives they were going to touch. Like I said, we're forever grateful for them taking that leap to make it happen and to have it sustain as long as they did. Very impressive.
It was a life that was all I knew. The The decision was made for what I thought was the right thing for the Jackals. It was the right thing for my family. But yeah, it was tough. It's not too many people in this world get to wake up and do a job that they can say that they truly love. And I can say that. Every single minute of every single day, I loved what I was doing. The other thing is that it gave you a competitive part of business. Very few things in business. Here now at the ice arena, yes, I have a goal. The goal is financial profitability. Same thing happened with the Jackals. That was my goal. Business-wise, financial profitability. But the best question I always asked of my staff and the people that did this with me, I don't know how many people that I have around me today that were there from day one. And I always used to ask this question: what would I rather do? Drive home at night knowing that I had a really financially successful night and have the team lose, or to drive home and have a win and maybe, we just didn't get enough fans there, or not as many as I wanted. And the good news is I had lots of nights where I was happy with how many people showed up and how we did financially, and we won. Then that was an easy one. But I always used to joke, what was more important to me? And I gotta tell you, I think winning was more important to a certain degree, and I love that part. So that was the extra frosting on the cake. It was fun. I never would have changed a single thing. Maybe there were some things I wish we would have tried earlier, done better, but overall I felt, very proud of what we did.
Well, it just finally got to be old hat. I just felt that if I turned it over to somebody else, maybe they could pump more life into it. We were doing the same thing basically. We tried everything we could in terms of on-field activities for the youngsters, and we kept a good crowd, and we kept a good rotation of the programs, between inning programs and things of this nature. So, but after 19 years, it's just kind of the same old. If you go to 50 games a year like I did, it just kind of loses its luster.
The discussion to sell the team first began at the league meeting in October of 2016, where all of the league owners were present to hear the news. Al Dorso, the owner of the Sussex County Miners, eventually decided to purchase the New Jersey Jackals.
I really had no intentions of buying the team. I was actually involved in trying to help him close the deal, and that's how I got involved. Well, it was a pretty difficult decision, but ultimately my sons made the decision. Michael and Al decided that they thought we should pursue it, and there was a chance that there would be no team, that the Jackals would fold possibly if the sale didn't go through. So that weighed pretty heavy. It would have been tough for the league, and really tough for the Jackals fans and the university. So that weighed on the decision also. Part of the deal with the sale was that we couldn't announce, so the fans were pretty up in the air. Nobody knew it was happening. It wasn't our fault. We got blamed for it, of course, ultimately, but it wasn't our fault. It was a non-disclosure. We couldn't say what was happening, and so everything was up in the air. And in the end, I said, we've got to start doing something here. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble going into the season. But in addition to that, we had to assess the stadium and what needs there were, and there was obviously a lot of things to do in the stadium, upgrades to be done. Again, we started late in the season, so we worked through the season to do the minor upgrades and anything that had to happen. And then over the winter, we did things that we would like to do in the stadium.
Part of Dorso's plan was to upgrade the stadium and make the fan experience even better. He pledged $1 million into renovations, which has already made a major impact on the players, fans, and staff.
This year we did a new infield. We upgraded the sprinkler system. We've We've done extensive seeding and grooming to the outfield. I think it's in great shape. We did a new warning track. We upgraded the dugouts. We put a new outfield wall up. Obviously a new video board, electronics video board, state of the art. We're renovating concession stands as we go, and there'll be more of that. We upgraded all our lighting. We renovated 2 of the 4 bathrooms, men's and women's on the third base side. On the other side, we'll be doing that this winter, the other set of bathrooms. The team store had been upgraded, and it will further be upgraded for the coming season. We're working on some pathways and stairways next. We've added a new entrance, handicap entrance this year, easier access to the elevators and so on. You know, we're putting a list together. Lighting, we upgraded the lighting this year, and we've probably got some more work to do next year to finish that project. We're going to be building a building out in the behind the center field for storage and field control. We're probably going to finish a parking lot back there for employees, 150 spaces or so, all in accordance with the university.
And then some of the amenities that most fans won't see, but locker room enhancements will be a big deal for the players. So we have a long list of food and beverage opportunities, fan enhancements, stadium enhancements that'll make the stadium very comfortable.
I think people are going to come in and hopefully see some drastic improvements, and I think, you know, new outfield wall and new infield, and some of the facilities in terms of the bathrooms and concessions areas getting some upgrades. I think that is something where we're going to be a little bit more modern now than where we were at. So I'm hoping that it really goes a long way in the minds of our fans just to show them that, you know, we're here, we're invested, we really care about their experience. So I think that's partly what I'm hoping for.
Several aesthetic changes that are happening here are just going to bring a new look and sort of a facelift to the facility.
Rain delays now, we entertain them on the video board. That's something new that they never could do before. They had built a brew pub a couple of years ago. We upgraded the brew pub, added food to it. Through our concession stand, we opened the wall up between the concession and the brew pub. We put a glass garage door in so it's open to the outside, and you actually can see the video board and watch the game from the brew pub, which has become very popular just by a garage door, really. It's a funny thing, we couldn't get anybody in there last year, and this year we said, well, we're either closing it or we're going to try this garage door. So we tried the garage door, and obviously it worked, and it's very well received. And I guess by the time we're done into next year, we'll probably have close to $1 million invested there in new upgrades.
But what the prior ownership did, getting us to this point, and now with the new ownership coming in, I'm really excited about the future. I think that they can be very successful, or we can be very successful together here, and taking what's already been established, tweaking it and making it better and making improvements. And, you know, all you have to do is come to one of the games and you see some of the differences with the scoreboard and some of the things, and things are going to take time. I know that they want to make it a good fan experience, of course. I mean, I think that's what the business is. We're involved here. It's the fan experience. You want people to come, and you want them to have a good time. You want them to come back.
I think that they've already demonstrated that they have recommitted themselves to what the Floyd Hall Enterprises and Floyd Hall did in the formative years. They've already taken steps to improve the stadium. They've brought in and put in a new video board to change and enhance the experience in today's baseball market. They've marketed the team again, which is going to be so integral in maintaining an effort to bring back the numbers that we had in the early years. And I think we've already begun to see some of the results of that. So absolutely, I think that they're on the right track, and I think we're looking forward to a number of baseball years ahead of us with the Jackals here at Yogi Berra Stadium.
I just see them going up, hopefully. I think the stadium's going to continue to get renovated and more money's going to pump in here, and you're going to see good players coming in and out. And as long as the fans are happy with the product on the field and also with what they're being served and how they're treated as people at the ballpark, I can only see great things for this organization from here on out.
So that will continue. I think the really nice opportunity going forward is Mr. Dorso coming to the table, the stadium, the community, and bringing what he does extremely well. He is an entertainment expert, and I think that's something that we missed here, and now there's a really good opportunity for him to bring that. And the affordability piece is sort of built in automatically. That's what these teams and facilities and entities really do. So yes, it will continue.
It's interesting. You hire baseball professionals to run the baseball business, but what surrounds it is the entertainment. We all know in minor league ball and independent ball, it's about what other things you do to attract the customers, the kids, and keep them happy in between the game, before the game, and after the game. So I think it helped greatly, and in the league itself, you know, I think I bring something to the table as far as entertainment, so that I can help the league move forward in the right direction.
And definitely one of the parts that I find to be the most fun is putting together a show. You know, the on-field game kind of takes care of itself, and that's what our manager and players are here to do. But everything else, as far as the in-game entertainment and all of the other things that occur, I think that's really what brings people here and gets them to having a great time. So that part, the promotions and all the in-game entertainment, is something that I really look forward to planning, and I think it's really something that we're going to grow and get much better at.
We had a great opportunity in the community, and I think we did a good job with that. The key to continuing success and being vital is finding new ways to, I wouldn't say totally reinvent yourself, but to be integral to the community. So that's a challenge, and I would say the evolution now is changing with the new owner. He has a really good opportunity. So I would say it's similar. Families move into the area. As you well know, young people that come when they're very young children grow up and move on, but they come back too. We've been at this for 20 years. So we've had loyal customers that whole time. And the challenge or the opportunity is finding new families, continuing to be in the community, and expanding the base.
It's evident that great things are happening at Yogi Berra Stadium, and things will only get better as the years go on.
Well, I would hope to say that we'll win a 5th championship. I come here, all of the other things notwithstanding, I still come to watch a baseball game and watch a winning brand of baseball. And we've had a lot of success in the past here with that. And so I hope that there'll be a commitment to putting a winner on the field year in and year out, and that hopefully we'll be able to bring home a Can-Am League championship in the future. If the Jackals did that, I believe that it may be one of the only professional franchises that would have won a championship in 3 different leagues, being the Northeast League, where they won in 1998 and 2004, and the Northern League in 2001 and 2002. So that would be the 3rd league, and that would be an exciting moment if we could get there. So we're looking forward to that in the future.
My vision for the future, well, I'm hoping they're there for the next 50 years. I certainly won't be there. I'm 62 years old, but my sons are into it. Especially my son Michael. He's all over it and loves the business of baseball. So I think they'll be there for as long as the university allows us to be.
So many great things have happened over the past 20+ years. So many lives have been touched by this tremendous organization, and so many have enjoyed being a part of it. For New Jersey Jackals Baseball, there's a very bright future ahead.